Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. With OpTic Texas starting in the losers bracket for Major 4 for I believe the first time since Stage 3 last year back in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. They've explained exactly what went wrong for the team, why they still have some confidence though that they can turn it around, but the bracket they have is far from easy. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I'll greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel, thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Let's just crack right on with things here. Thought this is hilarious. First of all, this of course a classic image from back in the day. TGP, the Chicago Huntsman days. These are two players on the OpTic Apex Legends team that they've recreated this image. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Like, they just look so good doing it. It's honestly incredible how similar this guy looks to Formal right here. And even the guy, like, trying to be scum, is pretty good, to be honest. I thought that was absolutely phenomenal. And I think they saw this maybe the other day, or, like, people talked about it and were saying, well, like, you know, time flies. Scum and Formal right here playing Apex Legends. And even Scum and Formal actually responded to this one, right? And they had, you know, bro, they low-key killed it. So, thought that was rather cool, to be honest. We'll talk about OpTic a little bit more here in a second, but plenty else to discuss, because wanted to mention Modern Warfare 2, because I mean, yeah, look, I'm kind of running out of hope, to be perfectly honest, that this game's actually going to be any good, but it's got to be better than the Vanguard, right? That's the thing that's keeping me somewhat optimistic, is that surely Modern Warfare 2 is at least going to be better than Vanguard, better playing experience, better viewing experience. Like, even if it's just Modern Warfare rinse and repeat from 2019, it's better than we've got now. So, like, you know, maybe that's too pessimistic, but look, the developers haven't changed their ways at all. They still don't want, apparently, to add Ninja as a perk. We saw it in this game, like last year's game, of course, Ninja, Dead Silence is actually a thing, but yeah, not the case apparently anymore, because they're just going to have it back as a field upgrade, I'm guessing, which is what happened in Modern Warfare, which made Search and Destroy so frustrating to play when you didn't have Dead Silence the whole time. And honestly, like, it's just incredible that they're still getting away with this type of stuff. But I mean, yeah, look, we'll see if this changes over time, but apparently right now they're not planning to have Ninja as an actual perk in Modern Warfare 2, so, you know, like, who's surprised anymore at this point? Wanted to mention challenges real quick, because of course yesterday was the conclusion of the Boston event, where Toronto Ultra Academy North America managed to win it. Just wanted to share this some defag, really comparing, like, of course, this event, and well, this is the event here with some fans in the stadium, and what was going on here in Boston, just compared to what happened back in the day. Like, I'm thinking this is probably Miami, or whatever event this was back in Black Ops 4, but this is when I believe at CDL Miami, they had effectively the Challengers World Championships, and they had this match on for the grand finals, like, right before the actual, like, proper CWL matches started for the event later that day, for the kind of Pro League playoffs. They had them at the same time, and it was honestly fantastic, just because the crowd was massive here, everyone was loving this action, and just doing it kind of alongside the main stuff on the proper broadcast was just so much better, right? And nowadays, like, it's just crazy how things have gone downhill, really, since the CDL's inception has come through. But there are still certainly some talented players down there. I think Wardy, certainly worthy of note, this kid. Like, there's been lots of talk actually about, okay, how many good SMG players are there really left in Challengers? Wardy might well be the guy to look out for a lot of teams going into next season, so definitely worthy of note, I think, right here, because he was absolutely frightening in this clip that people kind of caught from behind the scenes and was getting absolutely cracked as a result of it. Now, look, someone who was certainly, I think, the MVP of the tournament was Scrappy. Even the final map of the tournament, he goes 14-5. Final map to close out the victory for Ultra Academy North America. Now, with Assault in the team, and certainly I'm sure they'll have the confidence they can go to the Challengers World Championship with probably still 8 teams and win the entire thing regardless. But, you know, Doug, of course, is going to have a rather difficult time. Took out 5 teams straight yesterday, he says. Of course, they end up top 4 in this tourney. He's got to do that all over again, the one line, if they want to qualify for champs. It does seem like Center's pretty much running out of hope that the CDL's going to change the format at all for the World Championship. We've talked an awful lot for the Challenger sides about the fact that Doug's been harassing them every single day to try and get them to do something, but apparently the only thing they're going to change is that they're allowing more teams at the LCQ, which effectively makes the LCQ better than the actual Challengers World Championship itself, which is kind of frustrating to think about. But speaking of Scrappy, I wanted to share this with you guys. I thought this idea up last night. I'm not sure this is like exactly the perfect way to do it, but I tweeted this out after Scrappy and Co won at the Ultra kind of North America, the Boston event, right, when that team won it, and it actually aged rather well, because as the day progressed, CleanX went off against OpTic, Octane went off against New York, and Hydra did rather well in that series, all things considered anyway. So I thought I might do this for some other teams down the line. But if I'm Thieves, like, you've got to probably do a complete rebuild next year. I'm still not sure they really want to get rid of Kenny. To me, I'm looking at, like, I think Envoy's good, don't get me wrong. I think that Drazah's good, but like Drazah especially is kind of a player in that zone where he's kind of like, you know, people say he's underrated sometimes, but maybe to me he's kind of in like an Asim category where he's a solid serviceable player, but he's not really ever going to be a superstar player that's going to take over series and you know, win tournaments for you type of stuff, in my opinion, even though Asim kind of did that for Los Angeles Guerrillas, so maybe that's a bit unfair. But I don't know, I just think this team, like, in terms of pure talent, the current Los Angeles Thieves roster they have is not really where they want to be. The fact that they're scrapping to qualify for the World Championship doesn't indicate anything good at all, and I don't really know what they're planning to do next year, but I think they've got to do some sort of a rebuild. I'd feel bad if Envoy gets removed, but I wouldn't be that surprised if they they want to make some serious moves. This is the team I put together here. I was going to keep Octane. We're going back to a Modern Warfare game. I think that's probably a sensible thing to do. Getting Scrappy in as your flex, I think, is, well, one of the key targets on the market right now that teams would want to get Scrappy. Yes, this roster might cost you a fair penny to put together, but I think it's certainly an interesting one. I'm not sure if Scrappy can run an SMG too well if it was required that it had to go to kind of like a, well, 3 SMGs, 1 AR. If that's the case, maybe instead of Octane, you have Kenny or something, and you keep Kenny as your main, and then if required, Kenny can then potentially flex or whatever if needed. So maybe that's a slightly more flexible option. But this Hydra CleanX SMG duo I've been wanting to see for quite some time. Hydra, if New York don't qualify for the World Championship, he's at the end of his 1+1. He could walk away if he gets a good offer from Thieves. And then CleanX, I'm not really sure what's going to happen to Toronto at the end of the season, but I wouldn't be surprised also if they kind of blow things up because they really haven't had the season that they want to have. Now, in fairness, this also could be a roster on Toronto, right? Maybe they keep CleanX, maybe they keep Scrappy, and then, I don't know, keep Inside or something, and then bring Hydra in as well. Like, that's also an option. But I just thought I'd throw this one out there, see what people thought about it, right? Because it's an interesting mix of players, but honestly, I just think this straight up has a higher skill ceiling than what they're currently dealing with. Some people said to keep it like Envoy instead of CleanX, but to me, you don't really have like an aggro SMG there, so I think you want one of Hydra or Envoy in my opinion, but you guys may certainly disagree in the comment section below. Let's talk about this OpTic stuff then, right? So, I mean, look, it was looking good for them after the game too. They came back from 2-5 down to win 6-5, and honestly, you've got to give credit to Toronto's, like, well, composure, really. This is the thing that OpTic I do feel lack, to be honest. Toronto, whenever they really lose a map in that fashion, of course, the big exception is last year when they got 4-0 to 5 forward, but I feel like since that moment, they've worked to a degree on their composure and found that despite the fact that they lost 2-5, like, I'm pretty sure if OpTic were up 5-2 in Surge and lost 6-5, they would for sure have lost the control. But in this case, Toronto actually doing the same thing. They still bounce back and win the control, win the game 4, and then even win the game 5 as well. So I just thought that was impressive from Toronto. But still, from the OpTic front, I thought this was going to be a game 5 victory for Toronto. Didn't exactly go in the fashion I expected it to, with the reverse sweep coming through again. But really, as the game progressed, right, and with OpTic really struggling in their control right now, you could kind of see it coming after they lost the control, that especially with Toronto's Tusk and Hardpoint being a pretty good map for them, you kind of see this one coming on. And after losing game 4, OpTic knew at that point they were in losers, so they probably weren't really too worried about the game 5 in the series. But still, as Scump says, GG's to Toronto, tough online split for the boys. They started out 0-2 in their easier matches, then of course they beat Paris. Like, think about that, right? The only team they beat was Paris here. Like, and that Paris series wasn't even that good, to be honest. It wasn't even that, like, convincing for them. If they'd have played another team instead of Paris, it could have been an 0-5 stage. Like, that's a realistic possibility looking back on it. But as Scump says, got to come back strong for the major and champs. I know that Rambo was actually saying kind of before even these couple of weeks of matches that, look, if they start and lose at the major, it's not over. They can certainly make a run, but their run is far from easy, right? Because that losers bracket is stacked as it is already, full of talent, and the teams that they will play are dropping down from winners or whoever are also going to be far from easy. As Dashy says, though, still confident we can get back on track, but this is the thing. They need a great major here because they're starting and losers. It's not the end of the world, right? They can still make a run of this tournament. If they can get top 4 at this tourney, I feel like they will have some good confidence that they can make a run at the World Championship and actually build up some confidence in themselves. But if they have a really stinking major here, like, surely that their team chemistry is just going to be destroyed going into the World Championship because obviously since Illy's come back, things haven't gone well for them at all. This major is absolutely critical for their run into the World Championship, right? But as Illy says, we will be back stronger. So Dashy's confident, like Illy's confident as well. I know that they realize very well that their control, like, I'm pretty sure they're maybe 1 in 5 in their last 6 controls or something. Like, it's not looking particularly good for them. And that obviously is the swing mode that was winning them all the series at the start of the season. Not the case today. As Rambo says, the coach, they played well in the second half of the series, that being Toronto. Few days to tune our inconsistencies, make a run at major 4 from the losers bracket. Nobody said it was going to be easy. Time to show up when it matters most. So look, we'll see. Rambo said all year it's all about the World Championship. That's the big one to win. And I mean, yeah, look, they're going to need a big run here because if they don't, yes, they're going to still be at the World Championship in the 2nd or 3rd seed or whatever it will turn out to be. But I'm sure they want to go in feeling like they can actually win it. And right now, I'm sure that they're kind of wondering if that's actually the case the way they're currently playing. Like, look, Illy had his moments. The 1v3 was nasty in this series, but without this 1v3, they probably get 6-0 this final map. Of course, in the end, it turns out that Dashy made a couple of nice rounds and it was a 6-4. It was kind of respectable, but yeah, they got outplayed most certainly in the Search and Destroys. Lots to work on, lots to think about here for the OpTic guys going into Major 4, and it's not like their run is going to be easy, right? So starting in losers, they're going to play the loser of New York Subliners and the Minnesota Rokkr. So they've probably got to hope that New York win this one, and of course, like we talked earlier today that New York need to win this. They need to get the top 6, top 3 if they want to make the World Championship. If New York lose to Rokkr, it's probably chalked for them, right? Because they gift Rokkr a free 20 points by getting top 6, and then New York would have to win the entire thing probably. So this is obviously a massive series for New York anyway. But whatever happens up here, OpTic play the loser of that series. So it it could be OpTic versus New York again, in which case it's tough to see them winning just because like New York are much better in hardpoint right now and in the other game modes, and obviously OpTic aren't particularly good at control, so that's a bit of a concern. We saw what happened to them most recently when, of course, OpTic played New York just a couple of weeks ago, or last weekend, I suppose, and then Minnesota Rokkr, if they played OpTic, this is obviously what you would expect to happen here, and also what OpTic probably are hoping that will happen, because like definitely it's a better matchup for OpTic. I feel like in a major setting with Rokkr not being particularly good on LAN, like this should be favoring OpTic, and quite often when they do find themselves in the early losers rounds, they'll play a team like a Rokkr or a Florida or something, and they'll just get the win and get some, confidence building through the losers brackets. But still, Minnesota Rokkr did beat OpTic online just a couple of weeks ago, so that's still a bit of a concern. And even if OpTic win that one, they then play probably either Florida or Surge or maybe Boston. Like they play another difficult game. Surge, I suppose, is the slightly more likely option to come out here, because you would think that Mutineers drop down, Surge beat Mutineers, and then it's Surge versus OpTic. Winner of that one gets top 6, and then like if they manage to win that series, they'll probably play the loser of this match, which might well be London or something. So their bracket is not easy at all, right? OpTic are going to have to win like 3 difficult games in a row to get top 4 here. If they can do that, that'll be impressive. I don't find it particularly likely though. So definitely intrigued to your thoughts on this one, right? I feel like they do really need, top 6 at absolute minimum really this tournament. Top 4 would be nice, and anything beyond that, of course, it is a bonus if they actually want to go into the World Championship with a decent chance, because I feel like they realize that, winning this event is pretty much out of the question the way they're currently playing, but of course they can still do something at Champs. It's not out of the question. We've seen crazy stuff happen before. There's actually a good and fair bracket this year, and it's just a straight up double elim bracket, so if they're the 2nd seed, they'll play the 7th seed, which I'm pretty sure right now is Thieves, which is pretty spicy as well. Speaking of Thieves, just wanted to mention a few things right here as we close out, because more drama already on the server side. Just wanted to dive into it in a bit more detail. Servers have been broken for 2 days, can barely scrim, send helps as Octane, and even as RC says, the game just crashes and says we got kicked from the lobby. Sometimes the game will not even start. So it's been chalking the mental off a lot of these teams. OpTic thankfully didn't have to deal with it too much in their series last night, but I guess still who knows what's going to happen. And even practicing behind the scenes, look, OpTic might want to get in 3 scrims a day to make sure they're well prepared, but if they can only play 1 scrim a day because the servers are broken, then of course that's not helping them either, right? So another thing to consider really here, even as Nero says in reply to Nasty, the ping differential that London were experiencing yesterday against LAG, Nero says it's the same thing when they in Boston play Thieves, and as Kenny says, when they play Seattle, it's unacceptable. Welcome to the losing war, says Kenny. And then even Major Maynard goes on to saying, kind of clapping back at Nasty on the London side, and says you guys also had triple 11 versus our quad 30, saying that they had a significant advantage London when they played Florida, right? So more online shenanigans. It's going away now, thankfully, for the rest of the year, but probably if we know what the CDL are like, we'll come back in business next year as well. And as Octane says, yeah, servers broken for 4 days. It's tragic stuff. It better get fixed by the major, because otherwise it's completely chalked. But yeah, here we go, the losers bracket. Paris are down there, of course. No, don't even need to talk about them. Guerrillas, OpTic, and Surge of the losers bracket teams. Man, it's not easy for OpTic to make this confidence building run. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new as always. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.